4 to 5 kind of arm width.
Okay.
You lose a little bit, so you learn to adjust for you as you make more. By the time I'm done, I usually have a piece about this long left over.
Cut the rope.
Yeah. You want to get 1/2 inch braided nylon rope so that it's hollow in the middle.
1/2 inch hollow braided rope.
On the flagpoles, like I said, make sure you have the rubber tips. You want to kind of cut them at an angle and make sure that the tips on both ends are facing the same direction, because that's going to be your handle and this will be your snare part, and that helps prevent them from pushing through.
Okay. Do they stay on the pole the whole time?
Whole time. Don't ever remove them. Like I said, you just want to make sure they're bending the same way, because the hollow tubing comes in a spool as well, so it's got a natural bend to it.
Okay.
You get down to the end of the spool, it gets a little twisted, so you want to kind of untwist it. Makes it easier. There's not as many twists as you're getting. And you kind of push the rope together to create that hollow opening. You feed that into that hollow opening. And you slowly just kind of keep pushing it apart to open it up to feed that in. And if you just take the small movements like that, this will naturally move down the rod. Every now and then it'll get caught on a loose thread inside.
Okay.
So you might have to back it up and just kind of spread it apart until you see where that thread is, and then you can move that thread around until it's loose.
Gotcha.
It's just a defect in the rope. You want to feed it until you got a good foot and a half hanging past the end of the rod.
Okay. Make sure you got enough to kind of make your handle. You got plenty there, so what we'll do now, I'd like to do about 1.5 to 2 foot off in that area.
If it's real frayed, I'll cut that off.
Okay.
Just so it's easier to make a point. Regular masking tape or duct tape, whatever.
For illustration purposes, using Scotch tape.
Yeah, Scotch tape, sorry. I said masking tape, but the same. Anything that you can take a lighter and burn it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just something to help create that point. A couple different ways you can make the handle. Some people will feed it in and then just feed it up there. I don't particularly like that because there is a slight chance that that could pull out. What I typically do is I kind of spread that apart at the top of the snare.
About how far down from the handle?
However big you want that handle loop to be.
Okay.
If you want a bigger loop, for whatever reason, if you're here and you want that kind of tight on your hand, whatever your comfort level is.
Gotcha.
I usually make it just a little bigger. You can see where my hand would fit in that particular snare. And my hand's, you know, kind of average size. So, but I take that, I open it up on the top right there, and I just feed that through. Make sure we get a couple strands over it. So that now we've got where we can feed it back through the inside of this. So we'll open just like we did with the pole, we'll open that up and feed that in. And see how it'll just tighten down over that the further we go. And I feed it all the way back to the plastic piece.
Okay.
It just kind of gives it a double layer. That way if something happens, it doesn't tighten on your hand as much. When I get back up to where this plastic piece, where I meet the plastic, I just kind of push it out. Find out where you're going to come out at. And then I pull it tight. Because you want that snug against the pole to create that handle. And then cut the excess off. I usually pull out just a hair past. And then just pull it back inside the rope. Now the 1/2-inch braided rope, a lot of times, depending on how big a pole or rubber hose you get, no matter what you do, it's still going to want to push through. So you can see how some people's taking tape again. So get you some duct tape or some black electrical tape is usually pretty good, and wrap around where that meets to keep it from pushing through like that.
Gotcha.
So now we come down to this end.
The working end?
Yep. Make the point just like you did for your handle with the tape, so that it can feed through. I usually make sure I try to go down just a little further on this end because you have a lot more feeding to do than you do on the handle. So you want to make sure that that tape don't come off in the halfway process.
Okay.
Again, you just kind of create that point, something that'll push through. Hold the snare just like you would use it. Bring the rope down to where you're going to hold this end of the rope with your finger to make your loop. Now, depending on what size loop you want, if you want one that hangs a little bit more when you're holding it, or if you want one that's nice and tight against the pole, that's, again, a comfort for you and how you want to use it. I usually have mine hanging just a little bit.
Okay.
And once I figure out where that point will be, that's the point that's going to loop over the pole.
Okay.
So then, once we feed this back through this, that will create that slide effect. Okay?
Okay, let's repeat that process one more time. So, you got your
Wherever
comfort level where
you're going to hold it. Okay, and you're going to hold it right here at the front of your handle. So if you want it tight, or if you want it to have a little more slack in it.
Okay.
Okay, once you figure out how you want that, that's the part that will wrap over the main part of the snare.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll create a loop.
Gotcha.
So that loop then freely slides back and forth across the pole.
Okay.
Once you figure out where that is at, just kind of mark it however you need to visually mark it. And then you can even just lay that on the ground for this next stage. But keep a hold of where that loop was.
With you.
Remembering where that loop is going to be, you want to open it up again.
Okay.
And feed the tape towards the pole.
With you.
Not away. So open that up. Feed it in. And just like you did with the pole and for the handle, you just feed that back into the rope. I will say also towards the end of the spool, the rope gets flatter.
Okay.
So sometimes you gotta move it back and forth a little bit. So take your time. And you feed this back through all the way back to where it touches the plastic of that pole, that rubber piece that was on the end of that pole. And what you're doing is you're creating a double layer, so when the dogs, if they do chew on it, you get that double layer of protection so they don't chew through it as quick.
Gotcha.
And just occasionally tighten it down as you're going. It just helps keep it from getting bunched up. Usually about every 3 or 4 times that I do this, I'll stretch that out.
Okay.
Just keep feeding it till you get back down to here. Once you get down to where that rubber piece is, you find that opening again. Pull it out. Now, you still got quite a bit there, so what you want to make sure you do is just keep pulling it through. You see that loop keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just a hair more. Once you get that loop, before you trim this off, bend the pole and feed it through that opening. That's what I was afraid of. This rope is tough, and I didn't bring the extra tape to. If that happens, you just feed it back in there until you can get it down in. See if this, usually it takes something heavier than just your little Scotch tape.
Just so our viewers know, what has happened is the tubing has protruded back through the rope, and to prevent that, he's taping up the opening where you bring out the rope.
Yeah, that way it doesn't push through. Now, bend that and feed it through the loop. And there you have your snare piece. Okay, make sure it's where you want it.
Okay.
You make sure this rope's good and tight. And then again, pull out just a little bit extra. And cut it off. Once you cut it off, just like before, you feed it back in so it don't push out on us, since I didn't bring any heavier tape. And you just want to put some type of a tape, usually a duct tape or the electrical tape around the end. I have found the black electrical tape lasts longer, but for now it's just demonstration purposes to keep that rubber tip in there and from pushing through. You have your snare. Now, unlike the commercial snares they use, the commercial snares you have to bend them and hold, and then you snap and release. So on a commercial snare that you buy, it's called a snap snare because you have to hold it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the dog's running, you've got a dog trapped here and this is the escape route, as the dog goes to run through there, you hold that snare in, you actually have to time your release. With this snare, you don't have to do that. With these snares, I don't consider them a snap snare, I just call them a snare, and I can hold this out without having to worry about releasing. I don't use a metal ring, I just use a nylon rope. That way when I go to move, it doesn't slide as much. With the snap snares and that metal ring, if you're not holding it, when you turn, it just slides all over the place.
Okay.
So, this works good when you have two people running them through some type of an alleyway. And then if you've got a dog that you're trying to corner, using this and your control stick, you take your body and now haven't extended it this far so you can work them down into a corner. And then if you're able to get the snare on them and they're not fractious, you can walk them just like a leash.
Gotcha.
If they are aggressive or they're still scared, you can then take your control stick, because you always have it out and ready, and you can either slip it over the dog's head, or if they're jumping around and you're not able to get it on it by itself, you can always feed it, because the dog is in the snare straight down.
Gotcha.
Takes it straight down, you lock it in. Once you get the animal to where you can get this off, you can take either a snake hook or a tongs of some sort, or even your baton, to reach down and loosen the snare up and slide it back off the dog's head.
Right.
So it makes an extension of your body.
Just so the viewers know, you're using a bicycle, a flagpole, and for purposes for this snare that you just made, it's approximately 4 foot in length.
Yeah. We cut the flag off, and then we cut the bracket off, the mounting bracket. And then we take a piece of clear rubber hosing, like you've seen on the snares we was making them.
1/4 inch tubing?
1/4 inch tubing with the interior. It slides right over the end, to put on each end, to help protect, like the tape does, to keep the pole from just pushing through the rope.
Okay. And how much you think you have invested in that snare?
The last time we calculated it out, which is about 10 years ago, we figured with the rope, the tubing, and the pole was anywhere between $5 to $7 a piece, compared to I think they're about $45 or $55 now, if you try to buy the commercial ones online.
There you have it. Ray Harris, Sergeant with Indianapolis Animal Care Services.
I did not come up with the process. I took one of my sergeants when I started. He's actually the one who figured out how to make these after looking at the commercial snares.
All right. Thank you.